Hey, it's Nick Sadler here from the Label Machine. Coming up on this episode, we have Benji Stein from Playlist Supply. I really enjoyed this. We went deep on Spotify playlists. I also learned about the mechanics of how Playlist Supply works. I knew it was a great platform, but it is insane. And I didn't realize how cutting edge the platform was. It's really cool. We talked about what's coming up with Spotify playlists in the coming months, which is like crazy cool. And we also talked about some cool hacks for what I call was mass personalization. Yeah, really great episode. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I did recording it.
You're listening to the Label Machine series, a podcast to inspire and help indie record labels and artists to build income streams for their music. I'm Nick Sadler, a music entrepreneur that has helped start and run multiple indie record labels. In this series, I'll be speaking with music industry leaders about their experience and the lessons they learn on how they both market and grow their music income.
Welcome to the Label Machine series, where we discuss with our guests how artists and record labels sell music. Today's guest is Benji Stein. Benji is a creative director and the founder of Playlist Supply, an online platform that offers state-of-the-art research to help managers and artists find the best playlists for their music. He's worked at some of the respected music companies in the industry, such as Red Light Management and Rock Nation, and has a wide range of talents as both a designer and manager, making him a true multi-hyphenate in the music industry. Benji, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it. I'm grateful for all the kind words and the accuracy. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Los Angeles. I live in the Valley, Encino to be exact, kind of by Lake Balboa. Right now, the company's kind of working out of here too, and so yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Awesome. So you were born, and now you're here talking to me. Tell me what happened in between.
So I actually grew up not too far from where I'm at right now. I grew up in Van Nuys, which is just kind of like a few miles away from where I am now, deeper into the valley. And yeah, I was born and raised out here. I went to school out here. And so I don't know, I'd always kind of been surrounded by the LA kind of music scene. In high school, I was going to Low End and like sneaking in back when they had the pass, where you could get into Low End for $5. And then a few years later, it became $10. And so I remember seeing, Flying Lotus before he had blown up, and all kinds of like really cool LA artists. And I remember when Good Kid, Mad City came out, and like driving to high school and like listening to that. And so very kind of typical LA Valley, music listener type upbringing. And I think when I really started kind of getting involved in music in a more serious way, was I had a couple friends who were kind of starting to try and, start their music careers. One was a producer making kind of really interesting Mr. Carmack style beats. And he was also tracking rappers. And another friend of mine was kind of a singer-songwriter and a rapper. And both of them, were kind of trying to get their music out there. And at the time, I was like one of the people in my friend group that was like first to Reddit, first to Instagram. And so I really understood social media. And I was like, I'll start by helping you guys with the social media stuff. And that's like kind of I didn't know what a music manager was. I didn't know anything about the music business. It started out as just helping a couple friends, and you start figuring out what the distribution platforms are, and you start looking into where are these like Tumblr blogs. At the time, Tumblr was really popular for some music kind of going viral. And that was kind of the start of it all. And that kind of in college grew into me starting like a little bit of an independent record label, where I was managing releases and kind of just actually managing like a small roster of artists. And that was kind of like like I in college I studied graphic design and I studied marketing, but there was nothing that I really felt passionate about putting those skills towards that wasn't music. I always felt like, at least in my life, music was some of the most influential artwork. Like there was times when I like my first one of the first concerts I went to was a Def Leppard concert my parents took me to. And I just like it left such a lasting imprint on me. Like, you know, my dad took me like right to the front row, and I was, and that was just like first crazy concert rock and roll experience. And then I remember falling really deep into black hippie and all of the LA hip hop music. And I remember in college during like the early angsty kind of period, I remember music kind of getting me through this like weird, youthful period where you don't know what life is going to be like. And the only thing I needed was my headphones. And I was like, all right, the world could end and I'll be okay. And so when I was like studying marketing and I was studying kind of like the way the digital marketing is opening up and graphic design, the only thing I wanted to do was put that towards working with musicians and trying to get my friends' music out there. And yeah, that kind of took a little bit more of like an official path when a couple of the artists that I was working with, that initial producer, started to become pretty successful. And I also kind of like I took some of this small like indie roster and some of the stuff that I'd started, and I'd leveraged it into getting me my first internship, which was at Red Light Management. And then after that, I ended up working with, a whole bunch of different labels doing like, as a part of marketing teams. And I worked at Rock Nation under Shira Davis for a little bit. She's kind of like an executive producer, and she handles a lot of the tour documentaries. And I was doing like graphic design for pitch decks, and I was just helping her do logistic stuffs. And that kind of thing was like one of those jobs where you just kind of like, that was how I started to see how the cogs behind everyone's favorite music works and how these things get planned. And more recently, I've worked with a whole bunch of really cool artists. I manage a singer, songwriter, producer. I manage an indie rock band that's doing really cool stuff right now. They just signed to Fat Possum Luminell. And yeah, they started playing music like a year ago. I like went really crazy with the marketing, and they're about to do their first UK Europe tour. They're on Billboard, they're on Pitchfork, and it's all the stuff I was doing before kind of just evolved as the industry evolved, and I learned a bit more. And and that kind of came to Playlist Supply, which is my most recent project, probably the project that's growing the fastest. And I had a lot of experience working my way kind of into a position where I was working with artists of a higher tier, and working with managers that are kind of managing these big acts. And I got to see from the back end how the whole playlisting thing is kind of it's kind of a gray area where artists, especially indie artists, get taken advantage of. And it's a crazy world out there with Spotify having such a monopoly on the entire streaming world, and then all of Spotify's real resources being leveraged directly by big record labels that have huge budgets. It kind of just evaporates any opportunity for indie artists. And it's crazy how dependent numbers are. And that's another thing that, playlisting kind of became really important initially because people were trying to drive numbers up. And, that A&R instinct that I like kind of learned about when I first got my cut my teeth in music is completely gone. It's like people want to see your Spotify monthly listeners, and they want to have tested appeal before they invest in an artist, kind of like a stock. And these labels are only looking for safe investments. And so, if you're a new artist trying to break it, and it's real easy to get wrapped up into some playlist company that's going to give you some streams, that's going to make you feel like you have a better like chance at making it. And so it's really interesting. Things have gotten more accessible, and with that accessibility comes more saturation. But it's like people, start a band or they put a song on DistroKid or SoundCloud, and they don't always know what they're up against.
Mm.
And I kind of came from indie management and the indie artist world, and then bridged into the more official, like, quote unquote music industry. And I'm like still like an indie manager at heart. I like management because it's something where I can walk into a label and I can still make sure the artist gets what they need. I don't feel like I'm on like the label side. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah.
I'd have to say as well, being like a talented graphic designer is such an asset to have in a manager. You either want your manager to be a lawyer or a designer.
Exactly. Those are the two, like I can't tell you how many times there was some creative asset, or the album artwork was the wrong size, and it's like, okay, yeah, I've been using Photoshop for 10 years. This is going to take me 1 minute. Or I could hit up the graphic designer, get 2 days turnaround, and $100, $1,000. It's like,
yeah. So, we just need it. The design of the tour poster has fallen through. We need something by tomorrow. Okay, I guess I'll cancel my plans tonight.
Exactly. No, it's with merch, like the merch file thing is always super difficult if someone doesn't know how to prepare the files for merch. And it's just like, I can't tell you, it's countless times it's been a lifesaver, and it's also an incentive for people to work with me in particular. Yeah, I've directed music videos. I can play multiple roles, which saves money, and that's what you need in the indie world. Exactly.
So switching over to the playlist supply and Spotify playlist, can you give us a rundown of what your main activities are at Playlist Supply?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was kind of just touching on it at the end before, but basically Playlist Supply started, I was working as a part of the management team for a couple larger acts. And I was helping them more specifically with marketing, and we were doing a ton of playlisting. And I was not happy with the results we were getting. And something we were doing internally was we had people on our team kind of doing what Playlist Supply does, but manually. And what that is it goes onto Spotify, it looks in the description of public playlists, and it looks if there's a contact information, like an email or Instagram handle or a Twitter handle. And I had a couple people who would work on this for a few hours a day, and we'd get a handful of playlist contact information. And, when COVID hit and the pandemic kind of really settled in, all of the artists I was working with had their shows canceled. It looked like the music industry was about to, collapse. It was seeming really dark. And so at that time, this manager, this label, all the people I'm working with are like, we need to go harder on digital. How do we lay in on streaming? How do we take streaming to the next level? Because touring is indefinitely canceled. And so I was thinking, okay, we have this system we've been doing that's working. What if we try automate it? And so I have a really close friend of mine who's my co-founder for Playlist Supply, and he's a big booking agent in Europe for mostly techno and electronic acts. And he manages a couple acts too. And he was having the same thing. He was like, this whole genre is dependent on shows. I need a way to grow their streams when they're doing those shows. And we found a couple coders on freelancer.com. I basically just explained to them the system that my team was doing. And within a few weeks, we had a workable software on my computer. And at first, I just kind of gave it out to a few of my friends who are big managers, some people at Maverick, some people at Create, and all kinds of people to get beta test information. And all the feedback we got was this is next level. You got to make this available to more people. You got to make this available to indie artists. And yeah, that's basically what we did. We made the software like an online search tool. And the way it works is anyone can sign up. It's $20 a month, and you get access to Google or Bing, but exclusively for Spotify playlists. And now what previously would take my team a few hours, you can go into Playlist Supply. You can type in, cloud rap or yeet or some new trend or some new kind of genre. You'll get hundreds of playlist contacts in just a few seconds. It's like lightning fast. And so you can spend more time emailing curators, doing outreach, and less time trying to hunt down who these people are, what playlists they have, and yeah, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. I mean, so I get my next question, and I think I know the answer now, is how do you keep the playlist database up to date? But so correct me if I'm wrong, it's not actually someone manually or a machine copying it onto a spreadsheet you've access to. It's actually pulling it from Spotify. Is that right?
Exactly. So a lot of the existing playlisting services and companies, they would use a list that they had from before, or a list of people they know. And the difference between most of those and Playlist Supply is that Playlist Supply is a real-time search engine. If we make a playlist right now and it's called Supreme Rock and Roll, after that playlist is made, songs are added, it's had time to, you know, be indexed into Spotify. It'll show up next day, next hour, whenever it gets published on Playlist Supply. And so that allows us to, you know, we don't have like a database or a finite number of playlists that we update. Every time you run a search, you get fresh results. It's like, it's literally a real-time search engine for Spotify playlists. And that's really cool because you can do things that are super current. You can work with old songs. If there's a TikTok trend that's going up, you can catch a list, all the playlists, curator lists to get updated. And it's also just, you can cast a wider net. Some of the record labels that use Playlist Supply, they're coming on with huge budgets and they can export, you know, thousands of playlists, and they can reach out to thousands of playlists using email software like GMAS or MailChimp. And there's a whole bunch of ways to use it. But yeah, it's a real-time search engine.
That's amazing. Do you know what? I don't know if you need to update your homepage, but I think that should be front and center as your kind of USP, because I wasn't actually aware of that it's actually real-time pulling, because that's amazing. That's incredible. You've built that, and makes so much more sense because it's fresh and relevant. So when it is pulling this information and it does need, I guess, to be public, like what kind of information is being pulled from there? Like if I was to use the software, what kind of stuff can I expect?
So it pulls basically all of the public data points, everything you can see when normally looking at a playlist. And then it also pulls some kind of metadata details that are really interesting. If you run a typical search on Playlist Supply, you're going to get the follower count, which is one that, that's like a common one. People want to see the playlist with the most followers, or they want to sort by how many followers. And we've also got popularity. That's a data point that's not like super publicly available. It's kind of a metadata point. Spotify shows this on desktop with like a little meter, but basically what popularity is it's like a average of all the songs in the playlist, and Spotify assigns a score to each song on how it's doing popularity wise, listens, playlists. And so a playlist that has a high popularity score is going to be, say it has a really high one, could be all really big songs, really successful songs. If it has a really low one, it might be a playlist that's filled with songs that, no one's heard of or haven't got a lot of streams. And that's a really cool one because that's a data point that allows users to kind of filter and go through and determine if playlists are quality or not. There's a couple other data points. There's last modified, which is when the playlist was last changed, a song added. There is various contact data points. If it finds an email or a social media handle like Instagram or Twitter, it'll show those. It also brings the description right into the tool. It has a link to the profile of the playlist owner in case you want to see if they have other playlists. And there's another really cool feature that we just implemented where basically what you can do is there's now a checkbox next to every playlist, and you can select playlists that you say you want to save for future, and you can click them. You click save to database and you have your own database where you'll see changes. It'll show a little red arrow or a little green arrow. Say the playlist went up 100 followers last week. When you go to your database where you saved your playlist, you'll be able to see, okay, this playlist is increasing in popularity or increasing in following or decreasing. And so this is really cool because, there's playlists that they fluctuate followers in crazy amounts. And that's an easy way to tell if a playlist isn't legit. And there's no real way to track, okay, how do I see the exact followers going up and down? And with Playlist Supply, you can kind of monitor and do your own vetting. And there's a lot of built-in ways to take the data and determine whether or not these playlists are like ones you want to reach out to or ones you don't.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. So I'm a label owner, so going through a hypothetical situation. I'm a label owner. I have a release from a folk style singer-songwriter. I've used the platform. I've found 20 ideal playlists. What's the next step?
Yeah, so the next step, and this is one that we offer like a lot of resources on, but the next step is kind of up to the artist and it's kind of up to the label and the manager. And that outreach process, it's like doing a press campaign, or it's like, it's like doing official outreach in any other format. You want to bring the playlist curator into your world. You want to be like, here's some unreleased stuff. here's my latest music video. Here's a little bit about, here's where I come from. You want to try and pitch your story in the same way you would pitch it to a blog or to, you know, any kind of coverage. And you want these people to not just see it as like a quick transactional, like put my song in your playlist. You're going to want to reach out and kind of explain why these people should kind of invest in you and why, you know, you're the next big thing. And that's kind of like the approach that most of the kind of more official label people will take. There's also other approaches because the tool can go just for social media information. You could do a playlist supply campaign where you're just DMing people. And, you know, Instagram DMs, for example, are really cool because you can DM someone. They're, you know, people are more likely to respond to a DM right away than an email.
Yeah.
And they can also kind of like, you know, stalk your artist profile and they can kind of share about before they even talk to you. And that's like a really powerful tool. And, you know, for a lot of artists that put a lot of quality content into their social media, this person might check you out and be like, oh, this is so cool. I'm like, I don't even need to talk to them anymore to add it. And so Instagram's cool in that kind of way. But to get back to your question, I would basically, you know, think about the best way to form a pitch and just get to emailing them, get to DMing them, get to outreaching to the playlist.
Yeah, gotcha. And yeah, and you're saying as well, there's resources that kind of cover that off on your website as well, which is good to know.
Exactly.
And I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but it doesn't include numbers, does it? You couldn't text anybody.
No. Right now it doesn't include numbers. I'm not. Yeah. I honestly, I've done a lot of time looking through Spotify playlists, and I haven't seen too many people put their cell phone number.
No,
yet.
it's not a thing, is it?
But we are looking into we are looking into features that make things a little bit easier if you're trying to hunt someone down who didn't put like a contact information. What a lot of people do is, you know, they'll use playlist supply, they'll find playlists that are quality, some of which might not have a contact. And then you can look up the user's name on social media, on, you know, Facebook or on Instagram as a way to find someone that might have not put a contact information. And so we're looking at ways to kind of like, you know, make that process a little bit easier. And I think that's kind of up the same alley as like looking for a phone number. But I don't know, for whatever reason, people haven't been putting phone numbers so much.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And sort of staying on this same topic though, any tips you can recommend or like kind of top software platforms that artists and managers can use to ensure that their music will actually get through to the playlister? And let's say we're just talking about on emails.
Yeah, 100%. And so something I use a lot, even outside of playlisting and playlist supply, is GMAS. GMAS is a really cool software. It's kind of like MailChimp Premium Plus. It's like a more like advanced email automation software that kind of syncs up with Google. And I use it for everything. I use it to help automate responses for just regular emails with people. I use it to help me just like stay organized. There's a lot of automation that it can do. And for playlist supply and outreach in particular, GMAS is really good at, you know, helping you keep a campaign organized, automating responses. They even just included like some new like organizational tools. GMAS is definitely my recommendation of a software that if you're not using it, you should use it. And kind of a more back on like the point of like a tip, kind of like a one that everyone knows that I'll kind of get behind as well is, you know, if you're an artist and you're not putting your stuff out on TikTok, you know, get to it. That's TikTok's an important platform right now. It's an important software. Learn to use it. It's more important than Instagram. Get on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even the label machine, I'm on TikTok now. You know, more so that I understand the platform because it's something I recommend for people to use. But yeah, it's here to stay. So just going back to GMAS as well, is that the type of thing where you can have it connected to a Google spreadsheet and you could have their first name, email address. You can then have like the name of their playlist, then a interesting song that they have on their playlist, and then you can write an email that says, "Hey, Jared, I really like your playlist XYZ, in particular how you've profiled this song," and then the song name comes in there. It's really like my artist, so you can kind of then just hit go and it will mass out everyone. Does it do stuff like that?
Yes, 100%. That it definitely does that. And I've worked with a couple labels just onboarding with Playlist Supply and talking to them for feedback as they've used it. And that's 1,000% a way to use Playlist Supply. There's people that use GMAS and Playlist Supply, and you can kind of do a big campaign, kind of canvassing many playlists. And so how you're describing using GMAS is exactly how it can be used. And Playlist Supply works with that really well because they also have an export feature. And when you're running a search playlist, you can then export all the results to an Excel or a CSV, and there's PDF, whatever format is most compatible with like whatever email software you want to use. And so those two sync up perfectly. And there's definitely big labels and big artists that are running campaigns with Playlist Supply doing exactly what you're describing.
Because you have to personalize it when you reach out to people, right? People can see that you're just doing a mass email, but you can be smart and mass personalize. I guess that's what it is, isn't it? You're mass personalizing stuff where you're batching up the personalization of those emails. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It shows you've still actually gone on and thought, is this playlist relative to the music? So I'm not wasting their time. It just saves you having to write out all these individual emails. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I don't know about GMAS, but I'm going to look into that. And I'm already thinking I'm going to have to do like a special course for my members on how you use Playlist Supply and GMAS to mass personalize your playlisting marketing campaign. There it is.
Yeah. No, I'm super on board to help with that. My team would love to help with should we do
it together and we can just share the training with everyone?
I'm definitely interested in that. I'm definitely down to talk about that and plan it. That sounds really good to me. Our team also we're always doing demos for people. If you reach out to Playlist Supply and you want to see how it works, Ryan on my team, he's our project manager. He'll personally do a screen share and run people through. And so, for anyone who's listening to this that wants to give it a shot, just reach out to us and we'll do a video call and show you exactly how it works. And I think that the GMAS method is tried and true. And I know that there's labels that are doing big campaigns using that method. But I also will say there's a lot of value in fully kind of personalizing outreach. And some of these people, obviously the GMAS campaigns work. Mail outreach has worked for a long time. That's why people still do it. It never stopped working. That's why all the companies that ever do anything when reaching out to you do it through email. And so it is definitely tried and true. But for a lot of artists that are smaller, I often suggest them trying to go the Instagram route and trying to be more personable, because a lot of these relationships you build early on and with these curators, this is someone who you could build a relationship with that, they'll add your first song to the playlist, but they might also add your first album. And a lot of these people, they didn't get a successful playlist by, having bad taste in music. They have a good ear. These are people that are opinion leaders. They're normally the people in their friend group that are putting everyone else on to the new music. And so for artists that's just trying to get their numbers up and playlist en masse and get the algorithm going, GMAS might be the way. But for someone that's looking to kind of build their first 100, build their first 1,000 fans, it takes 2 minutes in email to, do a little digging, maybe find the song in that playlist that you could write a few sentences about. You could say, this is one of my favorite songs and here's why. And I know you have a good taste in music. You might like my song. Try and take it a level deeper than just this, put my song in your playlist. Thank you. You know what I mean? And so
I do agree. I do agree. I think they go. Yeah. I think it depends on my audience. If I'm speaking to an individual artist self-releasing their music, that is definitely what I'd say. If I'm speaking to one of my label members who, I guess a little bit more, they're doing bigger campaigns, and they need to kind of go for those numbers. It's that kind of GMAS thing, and tied in as well. You'd always encourage your artists to reach out and create their own relationships, because if you think about the world like a global village, if we were in a village, you'd just be going up to those people at a bar or a party and be like, oh yeah, man, I love your music you're playing right now, you should check mine out, and have that conversation with them. And I think you just need to remember that that's essentially what we're doing on a global scale.
Yeah, exactly. I really like that. I really like the way you put it there with the global village. I think that's really good. And you're also you're super spot on. It depends also a lot on the market. Like, there's some genres right now that are so saturated, no one cares if you Instagram DM them. But there's other genres where it literally is like a village. Like the genre is kind of small and niche and people just know each other. And so it's like you're gonna have better results by being like, just more personable. And so, yeah, no, super good point. So I really like that village one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something I'm really pushing with all my members as well this year is like grow your network, because it's the one thing I've seen all, labels that do well, they network with other labels and they kind of all talk to each other. And like, even the labels I knew, like when we're in the scene and we're kind of coming up in that first EDM wave in America and stuff, we all knew each other and like we're all yarning about stuff, and it was all kind of, and it was all really cool. And that really helped, like help the scene, but then also really helped us out as well. And I keep saying, build up your network, your professional network. So don't just always be thinking, oh, I've just got to grow my fan base. Like you've got to grow your industry contact base as well.
Exactly.
And playlist is a very key part of that. So I know we're talking about Spotify playlists. Do you guys just cover Spotify playlists, or do you do YouTube channels or SoundCloud channels as well?
So right now, playlist supply is only for Spotify. Apple doesn't really have like public playlisting as much. Amazon, all the streaming platforms are a little bit late to the playlisting thing, and Spotify's actively expanding on it. I don't know. There was an article that came out a couple weeks ago in TechCrunch that talked about how Spotify in the next few months is going to be taking user curated playlists and making them official. And so this will be a really interesting move, because before there's been a lot of this, there's a lot of exclusivity around the Spotify editorial playlist, which, no one has contact info for unless you know someone at Spotify. And, they've had, I can't tell you how many stories about people getting fired and text messages getting sent, and the whole editorial thing's kind of like a scheme. But for most artists, the only people that can, get you on are the people that accept those Spotify for artist submissions, and you have to go the official route. But Spotify is going to kind of upend some of that by taking playlists that are user-made playlists that are really popular and making some of them official Spotify playlists. And the curator will still be, it won't be someone that works at Spotify anymore. And so this is just one. There's another thing they recently released.
Like Spotify verified playlists or something.
Yeah.
They verify the playlist. Does the curator get some money for that, or?
It's really unclear. They literally, like, I read this article, I think it was like a week ago, maybe less, like April 12th or something. There's a couple articles out. And I was like doing some digging on Reddit. It's like definitely been confirmed that this is going to happen. It's not just like skeptical. And it sounds like it's on a boat of a bunch of new updates to playlists that Spotify is doing. Like they also just did one where you can now share a playlist with someone. There can be two curators, two owners of a playlist. So if you and I wanted to have our own playlist, we could now have a joint playlist that we both own, both add songs to. And there's this other one called Blends where we can actually merge, like it'll make an automatic playlist based on what you and me like, and we'll both be the owners of that playlist. And so they're planning on actively expanding on the playlisting world. And we don't really do YouTube. YouTube playlistings is very particular. Playlist Supply just focuses on Spotify. And, I think with the way Spotify is going to be expanding playlisting, I want to keep it its own tool. But we do have plans to release new software tools that kind of help you approach, whether it be booking or whether it be YouTube. We have other ideas that, we might expand the Supply family.
Yeah, I got you. That's really interesting about the collabing playlists together, because I mean, I also say to artists, you should start your own playlist, because it's super valuable and you can use that as a value, something of value you can add to somebody else when you want to collab with them or you want to get them to share your music or something. And that's going to take it to a whole new level. That's absolutely incredible. Yeah. And amazing. I think it's cool. Hopefully there is some sort of kickback for the curators. Otherwise, I think people get a bit of a stink about it.
Oh, yeah. Lord knows Spotify needs to cough up for everybody right now. Curators, artists, they should hook managers up too at this point. They've got so much money and they're giving artists pennies. They need to blow it back.
What are your thoughts on Submit Hub services? Do you think they still have a place?
So I have definitely used Submit Hub in the past. It's definitely a great platform. The difference kind of between Playlist Supply and Submit Hub is just like the finite amount of people you can reach out to. I've run Submit Hub campaigns where I spent a good amount of money and I got 0 results, and that's never a good feeling. There was a point where I was working with kind of like some rap metal artists, and there was just nowhere that represented the genre at all on Submit Hub. And that was actually around a similar time when I started Playlist Supply. And I was like, there needs to be a tool that represents all genres, not just the popular genres. And I think they have like a few hundred playlists in their network. And with Playlist Supply, like you could run search for anything and you're going to get more of a different platform with different goals. A lot of people use Submit Hub to get blog articles and to get press coverage. It's not nearly as geared towards playlisting. And I think that's me personally, I think press is great for, having some validity and rapport, but press doesn't drive listeners anymore. There's very few blogs that actually, blogging kind of died. Journalism kind of died. Most of these blogs are payola. A lot of the Submit Hub blogs are payola. And it's like, I don't need a blog post that's not going to get any new fans or any new listeners. And so I kind of, outside of like official press and using a publicist, I kind of like gave up on self-service PR a long time ago. But yeah, that's kind of like a little extra rant about.
No, because I was going to ask you, blogs, are they still relevant? And I guess what you're saying is in traditional PR, yes, but not for, what did you call it? Self-serving PR.
Not for getting new fans, they don't convert. I've run campaigns with, I've run campaigns like doing marketing with a major label artist who gets, a placement on a blog that everyone knows the name of. And I can tell you, like, it converted to like 200 clicks onto the album. And it's like, it's a good look. You can post it on your Instagram. It'll open doors. The highbrow music industry people that are looking for approval from like some trendsetter or this one writer at this one blog, those people will be happy. But in terms of you getting, you selling out a show, it's not going to make as much a difference. In terms of you getting your first 1,000 listeners on Spotify or on a streaming platform, it's not going to happen from a blog post.
No, I do agree. Like you said, I think it is for, you can share it on Instagram. It does show as well, like, when you are trying to open up other doors, people are like, well, who out, like, beyond you saying that you're awesome, is anybody else? And go like, here, these 10 blog articles, they're like, okay, cool. Like, and so I guess so long as they're not just complete payola ones, it does offer a little bit of like, more so than the person that doesn't have any blog mentions, I guess. Which artists and labels do you have or currently work with that have done a campaign that you're particularly proud of, that you're working with?
Done a campaign with Playlist Supply in particular. I think, there's so many people using the tool. I have some good friends over at Create. I have friends over at Republic. A really good friend of mine who's a manager at Maverick uses Playlist Supply all the time. I have a few friends that are like A&Rs that use the tool at some pretty cool labels. Very early on, we ran some really successful, like some of the initial testing for Playlist Supply campaigns before it was like a public tool. We did a really cool campaign with Matt Ox. All of the clients that I have personally, Enumclaw has used Playlist Supply. Basically like everyone I can, I've tried to get them to do a campaign or at least get their manager to have an account. Even if your team is someone that, they might not be looking to do playlisting, I think being able to type in your artist name and see all the playlists they might be on is also a really cool metric. And there's kind of like other ways to use playlist supply that are really
That's interesting.
But yeah, majority of major record labels have someone who is using playlist supply at the label. I've had conversations with people at Island, and I've most of my connections are the people I leveraged early on to kind of be the beta testers and be the people to give me feedback. And so the first 200-300 people to use playlist supply were music industry people who kind of like, I was looking to get them to tell me how to make it better. And that's how we got features like the playlist database directory feature and the one where it shows the analytics changing. And yeah, but right now, most of the people doing campaigns and using it are indie artists. And there's some really cool indie artists that have kind of like had like, you know, such successful campaigns that it's kind of been like a case study. There was this one band called Night Talks that was really, really, really using playlist supply all the time, and they had amazing results. There was this band called Wax Charmer. And if you go on Reddit and you just search playlist supply or you just Google it, you'll see, you know, in the comments of the YouTube videos and on Reddit and on a lot of these different social platforms, there's people who have gone and kind of posted their own testimonial success story. And that's, you know, I like something like this is going to be successful for a, you know, for a big artist, for a Matt Ox, or for someone who everyone knows. But I really love hearing success stories about playlist supply being used for indie artists and people who, you know, they don't have a budget and they don't have a team that's going to do it for them. They're just, you know, they had $20 and they're like, where's my $20 best spent this month? And it's on playlist supply to do playlist outreach. And that's another thing. A lot of these services, they'll have a minimum of 500 or they'll have like a minimum of this amount. And you know, like Submit Hub, there's no guarantees. You could spend a bunch of money and get nothing. And something I tell people a lot, especially indie artists, is, you know, $20 and 1 month of playlist supply, you could export unlimited results. You could do 100 searches. You could work really hard. You could save a whole spreadsheet of playlists, and then you could unsubscribe for month 2. And you paid $20 and you got a year's worth of playlists to do outreach to. And so, you know, I think that alone has more value than, you know, throwing $20 towards coins, which may or may not get a response even. And so, yeah, those playlists could be people you outreach to get more listeners. They could be people you look in the playlists and you see what other artists are like genre that I'm looking into, who else is up and coming. There's infinite data within, you know, within playlist supply, even just outside of reaching out to curators. And so, yeah, I'm often telling people just try it for a month, download all the results you need, and yeah, compare that to anything. Like $20 on Facebook ads won't get you anything. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, and you've also had the approval from Adam Ivy as well, I see, which is awesome.
Yeah, Adam Ivy, he really kind of supported the tool just off the strength. He's been doing the indie artist kind of guidance thing for a long time. And we connected like over Instagram DM, and, you know, he's someone, he just took off with it. He was like, I'm going to show everyone playlist supply. And yeah, he's probably our biggest social media supporter yet. Like, no, I don't think anyone is like publicly made a video, but yeah, Adam Ivy, and Adam Ivy's just an awesome guy too.
Yeah, and yeah, he's got a big following. Just going back as well, I just talking about the other ways you can use playlist supply, which occurred to me, which is incredible, is you can search for yourself as an artist. You're going to see all the playlists you're in, then you can get the details and then tell them all, hey, by the way, I've got a new track out. And of course, like, that's going to be like the most, you know, highly engaged audience, you know, because they've obviously already put your music in there. Like, I mean, you should just use it for that one function, if anything.
Exactly. And that's a great example of, like, you know, thinking about outside of the box ways to use it. And I've had friends who use it to find new artists. Like, they'll type in an artist who they're looking at signing, and they'll see what other artists are in the same place as this artist. And normally, you know, say you're someone who was first to this new artist and you made the playlist about them and you're just a listener, you might put another artist in your playlist that that no one else has heard of, that, you know, is really good, that should get signed next. And so I've seen crazy stuff. I've seen people use Playlist Supply in all kinds of ways outside of the typical. And it's just kind of like it's just like a software tool. It's just like a productivity software tool that just like, you know, it's just a resource that artists should have available. And, you know, I was like, at first I was like, I need this resource, but now it's like anyone can get it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So talk, I guess, and this can be about any kind of, in fact, actually we'll do a, this question can be not just for playlisting, but because, you know, you are a music artist, and, you know, you wear many hats in the music industry. What rookie mistakes or common problems do you see over and over again that new or early career artists make?
I think there's definitely a lot of them. One is just like you gotta have consistency and quality, and you can't let one of them fall behind in order for the other. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I think that comes across. That's like, you want consistent and quality music, consistent and quality content that you're posting for visuals. You want consistent and quality people that you're surrounded with that aren't gonna, you know, give you bad advice or drag you down, or and yeah, and it's also kind of looking at trying to look at everything as an opportunity. I can't tell you how many times I've seen an artist kind of like squander an opportunity because, you know, they didn't really see it as like beneficial to their career, but they weren't seeing like, okay, how could this lead to a better relationship? How could this lead to, you know, a placement here? And so yeah, I think those are the two. And I think being open to new ideas. A lot of people were kind of anti-TikTok when it first came out. And now, you know, artists are getting signed directly off TikTok. There's an artist who might have a viral song on TikTok and he gets $1 million record deal the next day. And then, you know, you can't be the artist that's like, well, I don't like it. It's like, oh,
well, I mean, and also if you're on Instagram and using Reels, well, yeah, you should just use TikTok. Like,
you should do both. Or, and it's like, it's yeah, it's I think that there's you know, obviously for some people, you know, it might not be right, but there's just like certain things that increase your chances of getting heard, that increase your chances of, you know, people finding out about you. And, you know, like the TikTok algorithm won't be as hot as it is now forever. You know what I mean? And there will be a point where there's the next thing, the next Instagram or the next TikTok. And if you're someone that at the beginning is like, wait, I've been waiting for this opportunity. I'm going to get my username and I'm going to be the first person posting this genre on the platform. And if you jump on that, you know, you're going to be leagues ahead of the people that were like, well, I'm going to wait till everyone else is doing it. Or I don't like doing videos of myself. And it's really interesting. Music, I'd say in the last 20 years or so, it used to be some, you know, 50-50 or 60-40 music, good music and marketing, but it might be more marketing in 2022. It might be like 70% marketing and then the rest good music. There's no shortage of good music. It's just, are you going to find it or not? You know what I mean? And yeah, artists are able to you know, blow up just from, you know, a funny TikTok video, whereas before you needed to do so much else before you were in that record label office getting that deal. You know what I mean? And so it's a crazy world. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, I think as, you know, an artist and an entertainer, you had to craft and you had to go into expensive studios 20, 30 years ago to get whatever that personality is to connect with an audience. Whereas you don't have to do that now, because if you have a personality, TikTok will allow you to connect with your audience. And then writing music as well is obviously, you know, like the art of recording music is so much cheaper and easier with, you know, computers and sound cards and technology and stuff. So I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just shifted because technology has allowed it to. But ultimately, the end result is you're connecting with fans that like you, who you are as a personality and your music. And that's the important thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I ask everybody this question. So drawing on your music experience on music releases, how would you run a typical single release today that has a 6-week lead time?
That's a great question. And I think it's just, you know, plan in advance. If you have a 6-week lead time, make sure, you know, release dates locked in. DSP stuff is locked in. You know when it's going to come out. You know that it's getting all of the, you're getting it in early enough to get to pitch to Spotify editorial. You're getting it in early enough to reach out to a few blogs and do some official press. You're getting it early enough to maybe share the song with some playlists early via a SoundCloud link or a private link to maybe have a playlist, have a playlist campaign locked in for the week of release. That's something that's really cool that you can do with Playlist Supply. If you get, say you reach out before it comes out, you could have them add it the day it comes out, and that increases your algorithmic playlisting. You're going to show up in more fans' weekly mix, in more fans' Monday mix, because Spotify algorithm says, oh, this song just came out. It got added to 5 playlists. It must be good. We're going to add it to more people's algorithmic playlists. And so, yeah, I would just basically make sure you have all your bases covered. I'm someone who I don't think you should post social media about a new release 6 weeks in advance, but have some good content for the week before, have some good content for 2 weeks before. And yeah, just kind of make sure you're hitting all platforms. Something that people often forget about is they might have a mailing list somewhere. If you have a website or you had some sort of sign up, have that mailing list go out as well. Send to everyone your new song when it comes out. And for newer artists, something I'll lay in on is, you can put stuff out, you can post on social media, but there really is there's nothing comparable to you like texting a friend and being like, hey, I just released this song. Can you give it a listen? Let me know what you think. Comments on like my Instagram post. And, everyone knows 10 people that they could get to immediately support them. And sometimes that initial 10 is, those 10 comments on Instagram, those 10 reposts on SoundCloud. That stuff does make a difference early on. And so a lot of artists they'll put it on their Instagram and they'll put it on all their social media and they'll do the release right. But they
don't even tell their sister about it.
Yeah, they didn't text their best friend to check it out. And it's like everyone knows 10, 20 people that you could immediately get feedback from and you could immediately hear what they think of it. And I think that's a really important one too, is to kind of start small and branch out. You're not gonna post on Instagram and blow up overnight, even though it does happen with TikTok. Sometimes that first TikTok post needed the first 10 likes before the algorithm took off, and then you got seen by that 100K or whatever. Yeah. No,
I agree. You shouldn't be embarrassed to reach out to your close network of people to support what you're doing, because they're the ones that will 100% support you, because exactly. They're in your close network.
Exactly.
With record sales, where are you finding royalties are coming from across the major platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, etc.? Where do you think it's weighted at the moment in 2022?
I mean, I know Apple and Tidal pay the best, but they're just not the most used platforms. Tidal's done some really cool stuff to kind of expand their platform. I was like talking to their team not too long ago, and they're releasing a new thing right now where artists can kind of like directly pay out from Tidal. And that's like a really interesting thing. I think they can pay. I think Tidal may have purchased Cash App. I think it could have been. And you can now pay out via Cash App. If you're like an approved artist or you're an artist that like is in contact with their team, they have some sort of kind of verification process that enables that. But I think, honestly, my management clients right now aren't getting a ton of plays on Tidal. The best money comes from Apple Music, and then the most plays comes from Spotify. But with Apple Music closely behind, I think Amazon and Tidal, at least for the genres and people I'm working with, are just a little bit less significant. But they're all paying pennies. Streaming is not a consistent form of income for an artist that isn't kind of doing, that isn't doing big numbers. Most of the revenue comes from touring and from merch sales. And so, yeah.
It's what I said, everybody. What you got to think about is streaming now is your top of funnel. It's just discovery platform that if you do get a lot of followers, there is some money made off the back of it. It's at least you're not like it's completely there is no value to it, but it should definitely just be treated, as another metric in that respect. Across social media, just speaking about like what gets the best responses, where are you finding in 2022 with the clients you're working with that they're getting the most interaction from fans from across YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok?
Yeah. So aside from playlist supply, I do a lot of marketing and kind of marketing consulting for bigger management teams and labels. And I think TikTok right now, I've said it before, I think TikTok is like probably the most, like the algorithm is the most beneficial to new posts and users putting out content consistently. Instagram, especially after iOS 14, the ads platform has just been like significantly kind of like brought down. It's a lot harder to use, a lot harder to get the results people were getting a year ago. And even just outside of promoted posts and stuff, posting on Instagram, it's like if you just post and you don't promote the post, you're not reaching your 10K followers. You're just reaching a percentage of them. And they've kind of locked up that full reach unless to encourage people to use the ad platform, which TikTok hasn't done yet. They very well could in the future, but there's still people who like make their very first post on TikTok and get 100K overnight. That doesn't happen anymore on Instagram. The algorithm is just a little bit dead, and I don't know. It's the botting on Instagram is out of hand. I don't know if you've seen underneath any celebrity post recently or anyone that has a significant following. There's just like a million bots posting like the same messages and the same emojis, and the platform is like Instagram's like it's kind of like, in my opinion, it's become more of a portfolio platform and less of like a place where you can actively get discovered and find new fans and that kind of thing. Yeah, I've honestly had a lot of I've had better results finding new music and even doing marketing on Reddit than I have on Instagram as of recent. But nothing beats TikTok. TikTok's definitely the top one to focus on right now.
Yeah, that's what everybody's saying at the moment. Have you used, speaking of TikTok, have you used it for an influencer marketing? Have you used it for playlist supply or with any of your clients before?
Yeah, definitely. I've used it for a lot of clients. The influencer marketing thing was like really big when TikTok first started to become like the buzz. And yeah, I think it can be successful, but it's one of those things that's so dependent on genre. It's so dependent on the type of music. It's dependent on the market. There's certain genres where, the market is not receptive to influencer marketing at all. If you're working with like some genre that's like punk or like lateral to punk, they don't want to be told what to listen to. So they're not, it just won't work. If you're working with like Jack Harlow or someone that's a very mainstream kind of more pop artist, the influencer campaigns work really well. If you're, you see your favorite influencer on TikTok or on Twitter, post the Jack Harlow song or say that Jack Harlow's cute, you're gonna think so too. And so yeah, it totally depends on the market. I think the scale is a big thing. Like a lot of the small marketing, I don't think it's worth it, like cost per conversion. But if you're like a major label and you can afford to have Kim Kardashian post on her story, you're gonna get clicks. Like it's gonna get clicks. And it's I've seen really clever influencer campaigns run by labels that went perfectly, and then I've seen ones that it was just a waste of money. And so I think it totally depends on what kind of campaign you're working, what kind of music it is. There's like a lot of factors, and some of it even comes down to like the strategy of how you're doing it. Like I've seen a influencer campaign run by a label where the copy was just terrible. Like the person's like, stream this person's new single right now, versus like them kind of finding a subtle way to work it in. Like the influencers, like, you know what I mean?
Doing
And
the
so
vacuuming and it's like it's in the background or something.
Exactly. And that's, you gotta with influencer marketing, with any marketing, even with outreaching to playlist people on playlist supply, you got to think from the listener perspective. You can't just think from the marketing perspective, because you'll waste money or you'll lose people. And
it's funny. I saw a video on TikTok the other day, and it was a guy talking on a panel, like a marketing conference panel, and he said the statistics show that 70% of marketers, people that work in marketing, come from like an affluent, educated background that actually really only represents 30% of society. And he goes, you're thinking what like that everybody thinks like you do, and what the way you're brought up and your values and everything. And he goes, but that isn't representative of what actually society is, and you need to think about that, and you need to think about your audience and not from the marketing, like exactly what you're saying. But he kind of like he was explaining like the kind of stats and numbers, and I was like, that's such a good point, like yeah, to always bear in mind and when you're doing your marketing. So
yeah, for that same reason, stuff can backfire too if you don't think it through. You know what I mean? Yeah. But sorry, continue.
no, I agree. So just look at the time. So I've got a question. What is the future for you and Playlist Supply? Is there anything on the horizon we should be looking out for?
So we just released Playlist Supply just released our biggest update yet, which was that playlist directory feature, the one I explained where you can save results. We've got a new update coming. We're planning on launching it next week. I'm hoping it comes around like Friday next week. And this new update is going to be, it's just like an overall speed improvement. Like the tool is just going to be lightning fast. We've gone ahead and done a lot of upgrades on the back end that make it really quick. And we've also like kind of upgraded our search algorithms, and these new complex better algorithms are going to just deliver better results, more playlists. It's more sensitive to niche and genre keywords, and it's we're just going to keep expanding it. The plan with Playlist Supply is to just keep adding features. We get a ton of feedback, and so if anyone tries Playlist Supply and they want to think of a way it could be better, I'm actively always looking for critique. I'm actively always looking for feedback. And yeah, and in terms of my personal, I'm planning on, I've been doing music management for, 6-7 years now, along with the creative direction, and Playlist Supply is kind of, I'm not a tech oriented person. I come from the music kind of business side, but I'm planning on laying in a bit more on tech. I think there's a lot of big implications for the uses of technology within music. I think there needs to be more automation. There needs to be more software that is accessible to indie artists, to indie managers. Right now, I like all the major record labels, they've got bots, they've got spiders. They have the budget to have a development team that can, follow your favorite A&R and see exactly when he follows a new artist and it pops up in an email. They've got the tech for that. But the indie artists need the same tech. The indie artists need more software solutions. And so, yeah, look out for, more software solutions from Playlist Supply and our team. I'm working with this artist right now, Son Amari, totally developing act. Most people haven't heard of him. He's just putting out his first songs. Go check out Son Amari, because this time next year he's going to be huge. And that's on my management tip. I'm trying to take the artists that are my clients to be the biggest artists in the world. And maybe some technology will help me do that.
Yeah, definitely. Just Son of Maori, how do you spell it?
Son Amari, SUNAMARRI, 2 words. His name is Son, and his last name is Amari, AMARRI, and he's this really cool R&B kind of singer, songwriter, producer, and he's just like I don't know, like when I found his music, nothing had kind of spoken to me the way his music did since I heard the first Party Next Door tape, and Party Next Door is just like R&B underground, like legend, and I think Son is the next one.
Wow. You heard it here, not necessarily first, but you did hear it early on. Son Amari. Yeah, man, I'll go check it out. And where can we find you? What's the Playlist Supplies email address, and where's the best to find you on socials?
So you can reach out to us, contact@playlistsupply.com. You can also, at Playlist Supply on Instagram, at Playlist Supply on Twitter. Our team is super responsive. Our team is like composed of, my partner's a booking agent, my project manager is a producer and an artist manager as well. And so we're actively, like, if you shoot us a DM, we're going to respond, but we're at Playlist Supply on all social media.
Awesome. Benji, thank you so much for taking the time out for being here. It was super insightful, and You know, I knew it was a cool platform, but after speaking with you in depth about it, I realized how amazing it is and why people like Adam Ivy are just championing it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.